Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tilila Report. I'm American lawyer Elisabeth Myers coming to you live from Marrakesh, Morocco. In the North African language of Tamazight, Tilila means freedom, and that's what we cover, anything that impacts democracy and the rule of law and your freedom to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. According to the latest polls in the US, top of mind for American voters, both Republicans and Democrats, is democracy and the rule of law. And right now, the rule of law is being tested. We will know soon enough whether it is true or not that in America, no one is above the law, including a former president of the United States. Former President Donald Trump and his organization are under investigation in a number of different jurisdictions: Georgia, New York State, New York City, for election interference, financial fraud, and tax evasion, amongst other things. And now the DOJ has indicated through its pleadings that Trump is under investigation by the FBI in Florida for potential violations of at least 3 federal statutes relevant to his taking presidential records from the White House when he left office. One is removal or destruction of records, 2 is for obstruction of justice, and 3 is the Espionage Act, each of which statute carries a prison term sentence ranging from up to 3 years to up to 20 years. So in January of this year, after months of negotiations with the National Archives, Trump returned to the government 15 boxes of documents that he had taken with him when he left the White House in January 2021. Some of that material was classified. This past spring, DOJ issued a subpoena after months of negotiations for additional documents, but Trump did not comply. So on June 3rd, a top FBI official visited his resort at Mar-a-Lago to try and resolve the matter. On June the 8th, the FBI told Trump to secure a storage room in which those boxes were held. And on June 22nd, the FBI subpoenaed surveillance footage of the storage room. One of Trump's lawyers then signed a declaration in June asserting that all classified material had been returned and none remained at Mar-a-Lago. Well, that statement turned out to be false. The FBI's search on August 8th turned up an additional couple of dozen boxes of materials Trump had taken from White House. And according to the FBI's inventory, the materials included photos, a clemency document related to the pardon of Roger Stone, handwritten notes, records labeled Info Ray, President of France, and 11 sets of documents marked classified at several different levels of sensitivity, including top secret and TSSCI, one of the highest levels of government classification, for which even people with clearances have to review them in a special facility. Trump told his aides last year that he believed that some of the documents were his personal property, but that he'd agreed to return some, giving the government what he believed they were entitled to. Well, DOJ became concerned based on information provided by inside informants that there were more records at Mar-a-Lago, compromising potentially American sources and methods and endangering the lives of our operatives. Because of the grave danger to the US's national security, compounded by Trump's failure to fully cooperate, the DOJ decided that a search was necessary and the FBI executed a lawfully issued search warrant on August 8th. This was not a raid, it was done by the book, according to a warrant signed by a judge. The treasure trove of classified documents seized and the subsequent pleadings DOJ has filed in response to Trump's demands for more information has borne out DOJ's concern about national security. DOJ's August 15th federal court filing in opposition to unsealing the affidavit on which the search warrant was based stated that it should not be made public to protect the integrity of its investigation into national security matters. On August 16th, the day after that, Trump posted on his Truth Social platform something that called for the release of a completely unredacted affidavit. And he echoed the demands of his legal team, who were also seeking to know the names of the witnesses who spoke to the investigators. On August 18th, the federal judge directed DOJ to send him a redacted version of the affidavit for unsealing by August 25th. And 2 weeks after the search, and the affidavit was duly unsealed and made public in a redacted form. 2 weeks after the search, lawyers representing Trump asked a different federal judge, one appointed by Trump, to appoint an independent special master to examine the documents seized from Mar-a-Lago and decide whether there were attorney-client or executive privilege items. In an unusual move by a judge, before the DOJ was even given a chance to weigh in and respond to the pleading, the judge indicated her preliminary intent to appoint a special master. Well, on August 30th, the DOJ filed what the media is sensationalizing as a blockbuster pleading, but indeed, it contains some quite startling information. DOJ first responded that the special master is, quote, unnecessary and would significantly harm important governmental interests, including national security interests. The filing also stated that Trump's request came too late. DOJ's filter team had already reviewed and identified any documents subject to attorney-client privilege. But more significantly, the filing cataloged a series of actions by Trump and his lawyers, including photos and other exhibits attached to the pleading that they say are evidence that former President Donald Trump's team deliberately obstructed the investigation by the FBI into the discovery of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago in June. DOJ's pleading says expressly that Trump's legal representatives explicitly prohibited government personnel from opening or looking inside of any of the boxes, close quotes, inside the storage room. It also asserted that classified documents had been deliberately concealed and moved and stashed away in office drawers. According to this filing, we now know that the FBI seized another 33 boxes, not 27, containing more than 100 classified records during the August 8th search. So now in total, investigators have recovered 48 boxes containing more than 300 classified documents from Mar-a-Lago. Trump may now face indictment, but that may not stop him from running again for president. In the immediate aftermath of the search, Trump's approval ratings went up dramatically. And since then, the GOP's election strategy has been to harness the voter outrage. Republicans have not only defended the former president, calling the DOJ and the FBI corrupt or Gestapo, and saying that the FBI should be defunded, but they are politically capitalizing on the search as the springboard for Trump's candidacy. They are also using the search to heavily fundraise. Far-right extremists are using the search as a rallying call on social media platforms as a call to action, and polls are showing an increase in the numbers of Republicans who believe that violent action is justified to achieve political means. With threats of violence escalating on far-right platforms of all kinds, law enforcement officials are issuing stark warnings about domestic terrorism. But significantly, the threats are coming from the top. We now know that former President Trump tried to communicate directly with Attorney General Garland after the search, issuing a mob-like veiled threat suggesting that he could, quote, turn the temperature down, close quotes, if Garland stopped investigating. And there have been calls for, quote, riots in the streets by Republican Senators Lindsey Graham, and also for mayhem by one of Trump's newly appointed Florida lawyers. And these are not even veiled threats. Every day brings another Trumpery. It's such an apt word. It means worthless nonsense. Trump initially claimed that he had declassified all the documents, but he has produced no record of that cumbersome formal process. And indeed, no White House staff was ever informed of that. And then he claimed inconsistently that the FBI had planted the documents. Well, the latest Trumpery came on this past Monday when the former president, quote, truthed on his failing social media platform, saying that the latest DOJ pleading shows that he should be reinstated as president, or at a minimum, have a do-over of the 2020 election. This is utterly absurd and completely unhinged. On Monday, he unleashed a deluge of so-called truth containing election lies. And yesterday, Google suspended his Truth Social app on Google Play because of the lack of controls against the spread of lies, disinformation, and conspiracy theories on the platform. So Android users cannot now even download it. The platform has also been defaulting on its bills, apparently owing $1.6 million just to its web hosting service, and it might have to be declared bankrupt like so many other of Trump's businesses. But the biggest national security question remains why the former president was so intent on keeping 48 boxes of classified materials at his resort and what he planned to do with them. Or worse, since everything that Trump touches gets monetized, what he has already done with them, to whom he has shown them, or to whom he has sold them. And this brings me full swing to the rule of law. As you can see, in all of these efforts, lawyers are present in all aspects of the unlawfulness that surrounds Trump. Maybe sometimes the lawyers act unwittingly. Perhaps the incompetence of Trump's new Florida lawyers, undoubtedly hired for their good looks, bears this out. But I would say the majority of the lawyers know that what they've been doing to subvert democracy is wrong, immoral, illegal, and un American. Lawyers should be held accountable. And there's an organization that is doing just that. It's called the 65 Project, based on the 65 lawsuits that over 100 lawyers helped to file to keep Donald Trump in power. Tomorrow is your chance to hear all about the project from the managing director, Michael Teeter, and Democrats Abroad Committee and the DA Global Black Caucus are hosting this event to help preserve America's democracy and the rule of law and highlight the importance of our votes from abroad. Information regarding the webinar will be posted below. So let's mobilize, galvanize, and energize our strength together to take back our democracy from minority rule. Go to votefromabroad.org to get your ballot wherever you are. Get active, join Democrats Abroad. The latest polls shows that Democrats are gaining ground, and in fact, American women are organizing around the Dobbs case and the repeal of women's reproductive rights. We are now 70 days from November. While we can be optimistic, let's not be complacent. Thanks for listening, and please get out there and vote.